scariest Uber Eats delivery. I live in Portland, Oregon and was on an Uber Eats delivery just like any other. I've done thousands at this point. It was for Baskin-Robbins and the customer was only a couple miles away in a fancy apartment building. Everything seems normal. I pick up the order, I go to my car, and start heading to the apartment building. On the way there I get a text that said, "Hey, thanks for getting my order. Could just come inside and leave it on my table because I recently got home from the hospital and cannot bend down at the door to get it." It was a little odd. I've never been asked to come inside someone's place before, but without thinking about it too much, I texted back saying sure thing, I'll be there soon. I get another text saying my apartment is unlocked, I'll be 10 feet inside waiting. Right after reading that text, I got a chill because who the fuck says I'll be 10 feet inside the apartment to the delivery guy? I get to the building and it was one of those fancy ones with the keypad entry. I was told in the app to look for Zachary Winstrom but wasn't able to find it. I was only able to find Zachary Warner. That name was also the one for the right apartment number, 220. I called the unit on the keypad and someone picked up but didn't let me in. It was kind of weird. Most of the time people are eager to get their food so they let you in quickly. The fact that the name didn't match the order was kind of alarming too, because who misspells, or gives a wrong, last name, especially when you need to look them up on a keypad? The unit 220 that made the alleged Uber order isn't letting me in the building. Even after I called and texted them on the app, someone opened the door to the building and let me in. I was getting ready to just cancel the order and walk away. I was outside for a solid 5 minutes trying to call them or redial and be let in. I walk into the building and was greeted with the usual fancy apartment lobby crap, a nice calming floral scent that isn't too strong, the elegant lighting, marble and wood everywhere, and the complimentary tea-coffee station. I go inside the elevator and go up to the second floor. I immediately get a call from an unknown number when I step out of the elevator. I let it ring a little before answering. I pick up and it sounds like a distorted and angry male voice. I can't make out what the man was trying to say, but the man clicked on me after about 8-9 seconds. I get to the unit, which was cracked open just as the prophecy foretold. I knock first and get no answer. I crack the door a little more and yell, "I have your Uber order." I still hear nothing. It's absolutely silent in the apartment. My hair is standing on my back at this point. I look around the hallway outside the unit and see no one. I open the door entirely, no intention of actually going in at this point, and see an extremely dark apartment. I could just barely make out silhouettes of furniture and pictures on the wall. I shine my phone light in there and see a shadow of someone. They were behind the wall that borders the kitchen, which was to the immediate left of you as you enter the apartment. I yell "fuck this shit," and dropped the order at the door, which spilled all over, and ran the fuck out of the building. The shadow could have been a mannequin or a man. I didn't stick around long enough to find out. I'm 6 feet tall, and about 185. I also had a large knife and powerful taser on me, but wasn't going to risk it. Thinking back, the shadow was roughly 10 feet inside the apartment. I called Uber to report the crazy incident and they deactivated his account. I keep thinking about who was the person on the phone and what was their intention. Was this person inside a killer? Also, what's with the apartment not having the guy's name but a name similar to it? This was the scariest delivery I've ever been on. The hallucinations you see at night are real. Now, I can't say I know for a fact that everyone has seen these guys, but I know a lot of you have. Imagine this scenario: you're up late at night, isolated from anyone else in the house, almost asleep, when you see a flicker of light. Looking around, you see something shift, near the edge of a doorframe, behind a chair, next to the TV. You see them for a moment, then they're gone. You think nothing of it. They're not real, it's just a hallucination. I need to get to sleep. Well, I wish I could say you were right, but you aren't. And I'm sorry, but now that I've told you, you're in danger. So please, finish reading, and you'll understand and you can be safe. Essentially, as far as I can tell, these creatures are inside another reality, an echo of our own, with the same objects and buildings and stores and whatever else, but no us. There's nothing living there, except them. They're mostly dormant, explorers, not predators or prey. Sometimes they get hungry, though, and then people disappear. That's why it always happens to people who are conspiracy theorists and believe aliens are real and whatnot. They attack the people who know about them, to protect themselves. No, it's not UFOs or aliens or government cover-ups. The shadow people got hungry. And here's the most important part: they are always around you. You may only see them during the night, but that's because you're tired, and when you're tired, your eyes and brain work differently. You process things slower and you get into a distorted mindset where your memory seems to work differently, which is why they don't get erased from your memory. The only way to be safe is to stay around others, so go back to family or friends or something. Anywhere you aren't isolated is the best place to be. I'm sorry for putting you in danger, but I had to make sure someone else knew, because right now, I can see the shadows shifting in the edges of my view. The porch light. This story is placed yet again, at my friend Jack's house. We are certain that place is haunted. Anyways, we were about to head up to bed when Jack's dog started barking. It's pitch black downstairs, so we agree to go down together. We get downstairs and see that she just wanted to go outside and take a shit. So Jack and I move towards the door and turn on the room light so that it wasn't so dark. Jack goes to open the door when his mom calls him upstairs. He tells me to watch his dog so that she doesn't try to run off. I greatly protested him leaving me alone. So there I am about 2 minutes later on the back porch alone, watching my friend's dog take a shit. I greatly hate the dark, by the way, and it is very dark outside. So, before I came out I turned the porch light on, but the thing about the light is that the switch for it is inside. So as I stand there waiting for Snowflake, Jack's dog, the light for the porch shut off. I was scared as fuck. Snowflake comes running back towards the porch. I throw open the door and let in Snowflake, and close it as fast as possible. I then turn and realize that the room light is now off as well. I panic and sprint for the light, which is across the room. I miss the switch, run into the wall, fall over, stumble back up, flip on the switch, and see that absolute nothing strange had happened. So instinctively I blame Jack for turning off the lights, and then I see that the porch light switch had also been turned off, but Jack couldn't have gotten to that switch without me seeing because his back door is glass. Then Jack comes back downstairs and I instantly question him, but he says that he was just up helping his mom put his sister down for bed. I still don't get how all of the lights had been manually turned off. From that point on I still get a gross feeling about his back door and what could be out there or inside with us. The porch light. This story is placed yet again, at my friend Jack's house. We are certain that place is haunted. Anyways, we were about to head up to bed when Jack's dog started barking. It's pitch black downstairs, so we agree to go down together. We get downstairs and see that she just wanted to go outside and take a shit. So Jack and I move towards the door and turn on the room light so that it wasn't so dark. Jack goes to open the door when his mom calls him upstairs. He tells me to watch his dog so that she doesn't try to run off. I greatly protested him leaving me alone. So there I am about 2 minutes later on the back porch alone, watching my friend's dog take a shit. I greatly hate the dark, by the way, and it is very dark outside. So, before I came out I turned the porch light on, but the thing about the light is that the switch for it is inside. So as I stand there waiting for Snowflake, Jack's dog, the light for the porch shut off. I was scared as fuck. Snowflake comes running back towards the porch. I throw open the door and let in Snowflake, and close it as fast as possible. I then turn and realize that the room light is now off as well. I panic and sprint for the light, which is across the room. I miss the switch, run into the wall, fall over, stumble back up, flip on the switch, and see that absolute nothing strange had happened. So instinctively I blame Jack for turning off the lights, and then I see that the porch light switch had also been turned off, but Jack couldn't have gotten to that switch without me seeing because his back door is glass. Then Jack comes back downstairs and I instantly question him, but he says that he was just up helping his mom put his sister down for bed. I still don't get how all of the lights had been manually turned off. From that point on I still get a gross feeling about his back door and what could be out there or inside with us. In the garage. Yesterday I posted a story about me playing Pokemon Go with my friend Jack. Now this story is with Jack as well, just this time I was with his brother and his friend Devea. Devea and I were spending the night at Jack's house. We were sleeping in his garage. Now Devea and Ricky, Jack's brother, both fell asleep pretty fast, leaving Jack and me alone. So as two people do while alone, we started watching some YouTube. As we both heard a noise in the corner of the garage. Now, Jack's garage was very dark. We both looked, but Jack saw nothing. Me, on the other hand, saw a strange figure standing in the dark, barely visible, so, naturally, we dismissed it. We continued watching YouTube on his phone for about an hour, then we hear another noise in the opposite corner. We both looked and saw nothing, so Jack went back to watching YouTube, and as I was about to look away I saw a hand touch the swing chair in that corner. I dismiss it as a shadow and keep watching YouTube. Soon Jack falls asleep. During that time I start trying to fall asleep but am greatly struggling, so I start tossing and turning. When I see a figure's feet walk past my eyes I jump up in a panic just to see nothing. I really need to sleep by now, so I try to just sleep. I start to doze off when I see a figure lying next to me. I'm dozing off enough by now that I just level it alone. It starts to bother me enough though that I have to sit up. When I did I saw that there was nothing there. I can't keep my own head with how tired I was. I lay down and close my eyes but I still can't sleep due to the past frights, so I open my eyes to see the fucking thing staring over me. I jump up but just about have a damn heart attack. I tell myself it was a dream but just can't shake the feeling. Finally, I start to fall asleep. My eyes started to close and as they did I saw a hand creep towards my face but it was too late and I fell asleep. Missing cat. The small missing signs began to appear around town during the sweltering month of July. Around town, the small white slips of paper began making their appearance on telephone poles or small store walls. Even the sheriff's department had a few hanging on their office walls. This went on for a few months until the telephone poles and store walls began to run out of room. Eventually, the police opened up an investigation, a missing case. At the town meeting for this new case, the police gave a small speech. "Please be patient," he pleaded to the crowd of desperate people. "We've never had a search type like this." A bystander of the crowd, unable to hold in her tears, began to weep. "Please find Charles," she begged. "He hasn't come to eat in 4 days and might starve to death." The officer knelt down beside her and attempted to comfort her. "We'll find your cat, ma'am, don't worry." But deep inside, he knew that there was little, if any, chance of finding her cat. Never before had the station had to search for missing animals. It was all so strange, but they would have to do their best. It had been 6 months since the last cat's disappearance. Investigators still didn't know what was causing the mysterious disappearances. Some believed it was a vicious dog, others thought it was an evil spirit. Either way, the attacks stopped in November and no cat had gone missing since. None of the cats that disappeared came back, making the possibility that something killed them rise on the list. The attacks were considered history until the first Monday of August. But this time, it turned out to be much worse. The faint glow of the moon lit the ground. It was late night, almost midnight. Mr. Adams woke up to the ear-piercing yowling of his cat. Startled, he jumped out of bed and ran outside, but by the time he got there, it had gone quiet. The atmosphere was eerily quiet and the moon's glow was the only source of light in the dark yard. He stepped out the door and peered into the darkness. "Here, kitty, kitty," he whispered. His eyes darted left and right, watching for any sign of movement. His heart pounding, he listened towards the woods, hoping to hear the suspect. Hearing nothing, he began to head back when an unearthly growl rumbled from the foliage. Frozen with fear, Mr. Jones slowly turned to find a small ball of fur and blood roll from the woods. With barely a glance, he ran in screaming and called the police. Once the police arrived, they tried their best to comfort the distraught man. They assured him it was a feral animal that had, unfortunately, become food. But with time, they identified it as Mr. Adams' calico. The police reported it as a dog attack, but everyone knew what it really was. Their cat killer had returned. Slowly, one by one, the town's cats began to disappear again. First with Mr. Adams, then Mrs. Stevens, and now Miss Terrell. They all reported the missing cats to the police officer, but they knew what little they could do if they didn't know what was causing the problem. Officer McCulley began to tire over all of the missing reports. He was in charge of the situation from last year and was now put back into the same scenario this year, dealing with deranged citizens who were grieving the loss of their cats and in fear of whatever was killing them, for a second time. "I'm sick and tired of seeing these missing files," he exclaimed to his partner. "What do they expect me to do?" He sat at his desk, fidgeting with a ballpoint pen. Combing over missing files was pointless if he wasn't going to do anything. "We should go out and actually look for this thing." "I don't know, man. Have you seen what this thing has done to these cats?" he moaned. Jake was new to the force and had been assigned McCulley partner when the cats started disappearing. "I mean, did you see Miss Terrell's cat? All that was left was a small front paw and a piece of her leg," he whined. "I did, but we're still going to at least attempt to help these people," McCulley said sternly. He closed his laptop and headed towards the door. "Meet me at the park at 10 o'clock sharp. Bring a flashlight, and maybe a pistol. You never know when you might need it." Bright headlights pierced through the thick bushes, exposing McCulley sitting on a park bench. Jake reluctantly exited the car and grabbed his bag. Making his way over to McCulley, his feeling of dread began. He felt as if the monster was watching his every move, waiting to strike. He hurriedly made his way next to McCulley, who was examining the back of a protein bar. "What are you doing out here alone?" Jake asked. He sat down and stared off into the dark for a second, wondering what they might find. "Well," McCulley muttered, "I figure I might get out here and examine our space. Never know where the culprit might appear from." He opened the bar and jammed it into his mustache-hid mouth. "Can we just get this over with?" Jake stammered. He shuffled through his bag and grabbed a flashlight. He also pulled out a .45 pistol. "Never know," he said as he shoved it back in the tiny rucksack. They clambered through the dense forest, looking for any clues. They were just outside of the city limits and stayed away from houses. All the so-called remains of the cats were found in these woods, as if they had been dragged off for later use. McCulley stayed in the lead. watching out for any suspicious figures or noises. He figured that if they caught this monster, he'd be a hero and maybe could run for sheriff and win. Jake, on the other hand, had been reluctant to join the search in the first place and wanted to leave as soon as possible. After a few hours of stalking through the woods, they began to believe that maybe it was just someone's dog that had been committing the crimes. They headed back for the patrol car but were abruptly stopped by the yowling of a cat not too far away. "Did you hear that?" Jake whispered. He was shaking all over. "Of course, I heard it, Nimrod. Let's go and find out what it was." Macaulay stooped low and disappeared into the thick brush. Jake soon followed. As they moved closer and closer, Jake's fear grew larger and larger. Soon he felt his stomach would jump out of him and run off. The yowling had stopped. Now there was complete and utter silence. He began hearing things, squishing sounds like a large ball of parts rolling around. He felt that if they continued on with this, he would lose his sanity. Soon, they reached the source of the commotion. The only source of light was the small sliver of moon peeking from behind the clouds. As they neared closer to the yard, their sanity began to wane. The ground was covered in blood. Guts and pieces lay strewn out on the lawn. "Lord have mercy, what is this?" Jake screamed. He curled into a ball on the ground and began to weep. Macaulay crept towards the scene. He knelt down and stared deeply into the mess. What monster could have done this? He questioned. He pulled out his camera and started to take a photo when a figure from the bushes caught his attention. When he saw it, he screamed. It's hard to describe really what it was because it had no definite form. It was a big glob. From it protruded pieces of every cat it had devoured. The paws of Mittens formed what seemed to be makeshift legs. The eyes of every cat sat in front, watching him. Patches of fur emerged from the big blob of guts and blood that made it whole. It moved in a way that no other animal moves. It slithered towards Macaulay, with evil intent in all 12 of its eyes. All he could do was scream while the monster glided towards him. Jake sat up and saw what was happening. Without thinking, he ran as fast as he could away from that thing. As he ran, he heard the screams of Macaulay silenced abruptly. Macaulay was gone and the monster had just had a taste of human blood. That night, Officer Jake was admitted into the county jail as a suspect of murder. The sheriff's department sent out a team to look for Macaulay. They came back without any leads on Macaulay, but they did find pieces of cats in the yard, 2 paws and a cat's eye. Jake was questioned for a week. Eventually, he was released and went back to his normal duties as head officer. Now that Macaulay was gone, some believed that Jake did murder Macaulay to get the head officer job. But Jake knew, no one could just suck someone up like that. It was that thing, the one that had been murdering all the cats. It got tired of cat food and went for humans. And Jake knew that when he heard the slithering sound of something that couldn't be human, it was hungry again. Peeking out the window, he saw its gelatinous form. It now had 15 eyes, 2 of them larger than the others. Creepy mother. I don't know if you'd consider it scary, but it was definitely creepy. When I was younger, I had this friend. Her mother wouldn't allow her to go inside my house nor sleep over. I thought it was weird but shook it off every time I had a sleepover at her house. Her mother would always be present. We couldn't even talk because her mother had to be in the same room as us. I didn't think it was that weird until this one particular sleepover. It was my friend, me, and one other girl. Her brother was also having a sleepover that night with one of his friends. We were just playing video games, her mother watching on her Xbox before her brother and his friend came into the room. They wanted the Xbox, so I suggested they could just hang out in the room with us and we can take turns. Buckle up, this is where it gets weird. The boys said that was a good idea. Then her mom intervened. I don't remember her exact words, but something along the lines of, "No, you guys aren't allowed to be in the same room." Thinking about it now, it's getting late, you all need to go to sleep. After the boys went upstairs, her daughter asked why they had to leave and she responded with, "Well, I didn't want them getting any ideas and trying to rape you. I'm just protecting you, okay?" I was in 4th grade and the boys were in 5th. I was weirded out by the fact she would say something like that about her own son. We didn't say anything but instead followed her instructions and started laying out pillows and blankets to go to sleep with. Her mother said that she would sit in the room until we fell asleep, then she would leave. It was the middle of the night when I woke up having to use the restroom. I stayed in position but just barely opened my eyes. I was comfy. I was met with her mother sitting on the couch right by us, watching us sleep. No phone, just a lamp on. I was freaked out and didn't want her to know I was awake, so I subtly rubbed my eyes and adjusted my position like people do in their sleep. I felt her eyes on me the entire time until I fell asleep. Let's just say I haven't been over there in a while. I met a child that has a demon attached to it. So I met a child that's attached to a demon, or rather the demon is attached to the child. Scary shit. So we were chilling in the living room. We will call the kid Michelle for safety reasons. The one the demon is attached to starts crying. We hear a loud bang out of nowhere. So we go check the room, but the lights won't turn on. And there's like this dark figure above the crib. Absolutely massive. When the lights finally turn on, bam, it's gone. So we go turn on the light in the closet instead, and we started hearing footsteps in the house, basically around us, in the general direction of the crib. Apparently the kid's father was a bad man. His name was, we will call him John for safety reasons. He cursed his son, his own son. Apparently, it's happened before, but it was on the baby monitor. They saw a dark figure in the corner of the room. We saged the house. Obviously it didn't help much, because the demon is attached to the child. Therefore the child is technically the starting place. This was last night. At first, I thought it was a person, so I grabbed a Glock 17. But it was indeed not a person. Some freaky shit. It whispered to me. The weird thing was it said my name instead of my nickname. Everyone in that house calls me Snow. Half of them don't know my name. But how did he know? Anyways, I'm back home. But yeah, freaky shit. Also it was me, and 3 others who saw it, Snow, eating humans. A guy who I met through a friend told me that cannibalism could get you popular. I was very well confused, to say the least. He'd said it out of the blue while smiling and running his fingers through his hair. My friend came and she'd changed the subject. It didn't end there though. About 2 weeks later, summer had started and I saw him at the park while walking my dog, Cosmo, and he then started shouting my name and I turned around. We started walking and talking and I genuinely forgot about the cannibalism thing until he started describing how to eat a human. I literally was so freaked out. He started to say the yummiest part of a human to eat. I was so scared, like I told him some stupid excuse and ran away. The next afternoon he'd somehow had my number and was calling me. I literally phoned my friend and told her. He continuously called me and I blocked his number. He called me from different numbers every single day. He sent so many fucking terrifying messages. He gave this one compliment to me that I'll never forget. You look so damn edible. Oh god, he's calling now. What the fuck should I do? There's something in my house or I'm losing it. This is not really a story, is more of an explanation. I live with my family of 3 and I've always kept to myself. I just got done with a long relationship and it's been hard to deal with, but since I'm a crystal person it's been helping out. I haven't really been really stressed, but lately I keep seeing things from the corner of my eye. I usually am doing a hobby or I'm looking at my phone, but something is always happening in the corner of my eye. It started with small things like stuff falling in the corner of my eye, but then when I looked nothing had fallen. Then it switched to things like people walking past the hallway or people coming up and down the stairs. Lately though my door just opens by itself with no breeze and no windows open. I showed my friend who I was on FT with that I closed the door and while I was talking it opened on its own. No one seems to notice but me, so I'm not sure if I'm going crazy or there's something in my house. What is this creature? This story happened to me when I was in the Philippines living with my relatives. One night I had to get up to use the bathroom until I saw a dark green creature with big ears. Naked and had long arms. The creature kept on laughing. I thought it was a prank, so I just went back to bed. Next day my cousin, I will call Matt, had gotten sick. His lips turned purple and there were pink spots on his eyes. Matt is better now, but I don't know if the creature made Matt sick. Skinwalker. So one night me, my boyfriend and his friends were out driving around out in the country, very far out in the country, and we saw a dog in the road, so we stopped, and my boyfriend's dog had just died, so he was looking for a new one, so we picked it up. It didn't look like it had a home, so we took it home and we left it outside that night in the backyard. But the next day I was home alone and I let the dog in 'cause it was hot outside, but I forgot to put it back out and it was in my room, so I bought it food and water and it started hitting its head on the ground in the water bowl and making a very uncomfortable noise. And it flipped over the water bowl, and so it freaked me out 'cause it wouldn't stop hitting its head on stuff, so I went to run out of the room and I shut the door behind me and all I hear is banging, like someone is trying to break the door down, and I just see the whole door moving. It looked like the door was going to come off, so I ran outside and called my boyfriend to come get it, so him and his friends came, and when they got there the dog was gone, the door and the windows were shut, the shadow and the doll. Okay, this happened after 12 a.m. I do not know if you are going to believe me, but this really happened. I was outside, and I was going to take something from the yard. I forgot it there, and I needed it. I had a flashlight in my hand, and I don't know what was on my mind, but I pointed the light at the gate, and I saw a black shadow. Its face was white, and it had black eyes. In its hand it had a doll's head. Oh my god, I sat there and looked at it for like a minute or something. I was terrified. My heart was pounding so fast. When I recovered in my feelings, I ran as fast as I could back in my room. I locked the door really quick. That was one of the most terrifying and traumatic thing that happened to me. Now, I never go outside alone. Rules you follow if you're home alone. 1. You should keep the lights on. It usually helps if you think something's in the house. 2. Keep music on, so if you think you hear something, it's easier to convince yourself it was just the music. 3. Keep the doors closed, that way if something is in another room they can't see you. 4. Once you're sure there is nothing in your home, sit down and read a book on your bed. 5. If you hear it tapping at your window, attempt to ignore it. 6. If the tapping gets louder, hide immediately. 7. Whilst hiding, try not to breathe heavily, they can hear you. 8. If you can hear them walking, pray. 9. Look behind you. 10. They have found you. Skinwalker. I woke up randomly in the middle of the night to a scratching noise at my door. I opened my bedroom door and let my cat in. She looked scared. I went to close my bedroom door when I heard a laugh. I walked out of my bedroom and followed the laughter to my sister's bedroom. I walked in and there she was sitting at the edge of her bed laughing. I slowly backed up and closed the door. "What are you doing in my room?" my sister asked, walking out of the bathroom. The maze. Journal entry 1. I woke up in a strangely familiar bedroom. It looked like my parents' house. I opened the curtains covering the window. Ooze, inky, sort of meaty ooze. Whatever I was in, it was organic. Journal entry 2. I found a cleaver in a kitchen-like area. The chairs looked comfy but strangely distorted. It was like the creature in was trying to recreate my childhood home. To be continued when I want to. Black Ford and paper bags. In the early 80s there were reports of a strange vehicle driving up next to those who roam the sidewalks at night. This car was said to be a Ford-like vehicle, modeled from the early 50s, with darkly tinted windows, and low-tinted headlights. Encounters spoke about how, from the car's void interior, a hand would reach out, gripping a small paper bag. No face could be seen. The paper bag was signed with words on it, but most found the words unintelligible, as if they were some sort of other language. They say next, a deep, grisly boom of a voice would state, "You will need this." One witness spoke of the overlying temptation that drew them towards the bag, exclaiming it was almost as powerful as a black hole. Examining this case, some seemed to not know about this incident at the time, and the ones who claimed it happened to them, they said they never took the bag. That leaves many to question, what would have happened to those who took the bag? What happened to those who did take the bag? My brother is sleepwalking, but today when he woke up he wasn't asleep. Why do you want to leave the house at this time? Plus just listen to me. Why? Plus I want you to see how beautiful the moon is today. I was wandering asleep for a while and when I woke up in my room its light impressed me. I followed him even without knowing what was happening. It was the middle of the night and he had woken me up. He was acting strange. My brother had never acted that way. From time to time I would find him wandering at night in the corridors of the house, but that was because of his sleepiness. I put on some shoes and a coat and went out with the one from the university apartment complex. When I got out I was awake enough to realize that the moon was actually covering it with clouds and that it was a dark night. I turned to reproach him for why I had woken up in the middle of the night and taken out of the apartment, but, when I turned around I saw my brother trembling. He put his hands on my shoulders and with a voice trembling with fear he told me, "Plus Shara, today I was sleeping peacefully in my bed when I woke up to have a glass of water. There was someone in the kitchen. The monster under my bed. When I was like 7, my dad took my older brother who was like 10 to get dinner. My dad told me and my sister to clean under our beds. We shared a bedroom. My sister that was 9 was joking about what happened at school that last week. She lifted up her bed so I could get under it. About 20 minutes later, I went to go under her bed again when I swear to God a black misty hand grabbed a piece of paper. I pulled it into the wall. Me and my sister screamed and ran upstairs. We lived in the basement. When our dad got home we told him about it and got his sister to sage our house the next week. Me and my sister slept in the living room for 2 weeks straight. I never happened again. The fact this happened when I was 7. Something similar happened to me. When I was 12 I was alone in my room and all of a sudden I felt a presence under my bed. I thought it might have been my sister so I called her name and I heard a noise under the bed like someone mouthing a word to someone else. I ran to my parents' room and nothing ended up happening, but I swear when it gets really late at night I can feel my bed moving subtly. She's next to you. Once when I was 9 I had an imaginary friend called Gemini and Ophelia, but one was a demon. Her name was Wish. I was playing in one of the crawl spaces in my room. I was having a tea party with Ophelia and Gemini. My zodiac is a Gemini. My mom was in my room talking to me. I saw Wish behind her. All I said was, "She's behind you." I said that over and over again. My parents noticed I was acting strange. I was acting possessed. They got me at Ouija board. I started to talk to more demons. At one point my house was in the palm of my hand. If my eyes started to change colors. Normally I have very dark brown eyes, but sometimes when I'm mad they turn black, but now one of my eyes is just brown. Parents fell in the trap. It's smiling behind me. Mom made me stay here. I'm here because of her. I never liked staying here. Too many things crawling on the walls. Not spider or lizards. Never saw what their faces looked like. They whispered to each other. They knew I saw them. They've been waiting for me. I can't sleep. It's behind me. I know it's there. I saw it. It saw me. I saw its face. But not really a face. I saw a smile. Just a smile. And sunken pits where eyes should be. I know it's smiling still. I'm facing a mirror. Why did I have to sleep here? It's looking right at me. Looking at me in the eyes. Smiling.